you so much, Rashmi Mataji, for joining, and to everyone for taking out your valuable time on a Saturday morning in this month of Kartik, which is very, very amazing month to remember the Supreme Lord. So yes, Mataji, you want to sing a bhajan, you said, please? Yes, please unmute and then you can start. Can you hear me, Rashmi Mataji, please? Can you unmute and start? You have to click on the unmute first.
Is that all right?
Yes, that's perfect. Please.
Okay. Jai Shri Krishna, everybody. Hare Krishna, Babuji. Okay, I'll sing the bhajan. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you, Babuji. कभी राम बन के कभी श्याम बन के चले आना प्रभु जी चले आना कभी राम बन के कभी श्याम बन के चले आना प्रभु जी चले आना तुम राम रूप में आना तुम राम रूप में आना सीता साथ लेके धनुष हाथ लेके चले आना प्रभु जी चले आना कभी राम बन के कभी श्याम बन के चले ना प्रभु जी चले आना तुम श्याम रूप में आना तुम श्याम रूप में आना राधा साथ लेके मुरली हाथ लेके चले आना प्रभु जी चले आना कभी राम बन के कभी श्याम बन के चले आना प्रभु जी चले आना तुम शिव रूप में आना तुम शिव रूप में आना कोरा साथ लेके डमरू हाथ लेके चले आना प्रभु जी चले आना कभी राम बन के कभी श्याम बन के चले आना प्रभु जी चले आना तुम विष्णु रूप में आना तुम विष्णु रूप में आना लक्ष्मी साथ लेके चक्र हाथ लेके चले आना प्रभु जी चले आना कभी राम बन के कभी श्याम बन के चले आना प्रभु जी चले आना तुम गणपति रूप में आना तुम गणपति रूप में आना रिद्धि साथ लेके सिद्धि साथ लेके चले आना प्रभु जी चल आना कभी राम बन के कभी श्याम बन के चले आना प्रभु जी चल आना जय श्री कृष्ण प्रभु जी You want one more? Shall I sing?
Thank you, Mataji. Maybe next time, if that's okay.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for such nice bhajan.
Thank you very much.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Om Gyan Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Sansajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dina Tarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Gurve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Namami Damodara Pada Pankajam Karomi Damodara Pujanam Sada Vadami Damodara Nama Nirmalam Smarami Damodara Lila Sundaram Akama Sarvakamo Va Mokshakama Udaradi Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajate Purusham Param Krishna Tvadiya Pada Pankaja Panjarantam Adyeva Me Vishato Manasa Rajahamsa Prana Prayana Samaye Kapavata Pitte Kantavarodan Vidhau Smaranan Kutaste Pahi Pahi Mahayogin Deva Deva Jagatpate Nanyam Tvad Abhayam Pashe Yatra Mrityu Parasparam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Namom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarini. Hare Krishna, dear worshipable devotees, thank you so much for taking out your valuable time to, in this holy auspicious month of Kartik, Damodar month. We all know that any spiritual act done in this month has unlimited times more benefit. So who would be not such an intelligent person who would not want to take advantage of this auspicious holy time where a little act done of bhakti will reap unlimited results? So all of you are certainly very, very intelligent souls who are taking your valuable time to read Bhagavad-Gita, to understand Bhagavad-Gita, and to live by the principles of Bhagavad-Gita. Not, many people are interested on a Saturday morning to get up and get ready for the Bhagavad-Gita study. So my special gratitude to all of you. I see Anita Mataji, Rashmi Mataji, Ramchand Mohan Prabhu and family, Sampada Mataji, Purbi Roy, Vipul Roy Prabhu, Nita Avani Vedehi, Aparna Mataji, Lakshay, Vijaya Mataji, Avinash, Vijaya Mataji. There's two Vijaya Matajis, that's wonderful. And Priyanka Mataji, thank you so much. And it is very interesting to observe here that generally, women have so much soft heart towards the Lord. And out of the 14 people, more than 10 are, ladies joining. Why? Because they are more interested in understanding the real goal of life, the real pursuit of life, the understanding of Bhagavad-Gita. So they are certainly very highly intelligent, those who are taking time to study Bhagavad-Gita. So deep gratitude to all of you. Last week we studied chapter 7, And we are in the section of Bhakti-Yoga, the core of Bhagavad-Gita. The middle section from chapter 7 to chapter 12 is about Bhakti-Yoga. And we discussed with the nice acronym HEAD. H is for hearing, E is God is everywhere, how we can understand through different energies. And A is for some people accept Him, some people reject. And they discuss the 4 kinds of people who accept God. And we also discuss the 4 kinds of people who don't. They are not the purest of the pure, even those who come with hidden agendas, but they are certainly much better than those who don't want to come to God. And then the last is about the demigods, the D. So today we will move on to chapter 8, which is entitled Attaining the Supreme. This is the title of chapter 8. So I'm sure all of us are very eager to read this chapter. So let's begin. If you want to again read a verse, you can raise your hands, your chance will come, and keep it raised until your chance comes. So we will start with Anita Mataji, and others can also raise their hand and we'll come gradually to all of you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Arjun Uvacha Kim Tad Brahma Kim Adhyatmam Kim Karma Purushottama Adibhutam Cha Kim Proktam Adi Daivam Kim Uchyate. Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me. Hare Krishna. Back to you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. So we'll read the second verse also, and then we'll cover those together, because these 2 verses are spoken by Arjuna, where he's asking questions. What is this? What is that? He's asking 8 questions, and we'll discuss those. Text 2. Yes, Vedi or Avni?
Hare Krishna. Adiyagna katam kotra dehe asmin madhusudana prayana kalicha katham neyosi niyatatmabhi. Who is the Lord of sacrifice, and how does he live in the body, O Madhusudan? And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. So here are the 8 questions. 5 questions Arjuna is asking in the first verse. What is Adi? Kim Tad Brahma? What is Brahma? Kim Adi? Adhyatmam. What's Adhyatmam? These are the words used by Krishna in the last few verses of chapter 7. So Arjuna is trying to ask those questions. So we see Bhagavad-Gita is basically a question and answer dialogue. In life also we have a lot of questions in life, right? Will I get a job? Will I pass the exam? Will I get food? Will I get dinner? If I'm sick, when will I get cured? When will I get my phone? When will I get my... Everyone, Srimad Bhagavatam explains, everyone is asking questions from morning to night. Whether human species or animal species, everyone is asking questions. But the questions which are pertaining to the absolute inquiry of life, they are lokamangala. They are for the benefit of everyone. So this question Arjuna is asking, he's not asking when will I get my job, when will this war get over, he's asking absolute inquiries of life which every intelligent person must ask. And he's not asking simply as a friend. Arjuna has addressed the Supreme Lord, this is from the first purport, as Purushottama, which means that he was putting question not just, I am talking to my friend, hey, what do you think, which car I should buy? That's like a, friendly question, not really very meaningful from the absolute inquiry of life. But this is a sincere seeker asking to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not just as a friend, but the Supreme Person, knowing him that he is the supreme authority, able to give all the definite answers. So very, very important whom we should ask these questions. We should ask Krishna and his bona fide representatives, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. If we ask on any Tom, Dick, Harry, let's say if we have to ask a physics question or a physics problem about kinematics and momentum and thermodynamics, whatnot, we will not approach any cobbler on the street. Hey, help me with this thermodynamics problem, right? We will approach a thermodynamics expert, correct? Or any subject matter expert. So similarly, Krishna is the expert, the manufacturer of all the creation. He is the cause of all causes, the master of all, the supreme Purusha, the Adi Purusha, Purushottamam. Arjuna is asking these questions to the Supreme Lord. And in the next verse also, which is also very important, he is addressed as Madhusudana. That means the one who killed the demon Madhu. So Arjuna is addressing why? Because these questions are like doubts. And that's the chapter acronym is DEAD, D-E-A-D. Okay. And the first 4 verses talk about the D of doubts. If we have to clarify our doubts, we must approach God, his scriptures, which are non-different from the Supreme Lord, his bona fide representatives, which are also non-different from him in one way. So Guru Sadhu Shastra Vakya Chittete Kuriyakya. Sometimes we make our own decisions, we ask any random person, or we feel that there is no need to even ask. I know better. I know what to do. I know how to excel in bhakti. I know everything. I don't need to ask. I don't need to check with others. I don't need to check with senior devotees. I know what's right. I know what's wrong. I can make my decisions myself. When one starts to think like that, then basically the bhakti will stop, or the progress will be very, very limited. In in engineering or doctor or any field, actually there is something called internship or apprenticeship, right? Have you all been through those phases, right? When the person does not know, maybe they may have done the theoretical education, but they have not gained experience. So in that apprentice mode or that internship mode, one is just trying to absorb, learn from the seniors who have 10s and 20 years of experience, correct? We all have been through some phases in our life for sure, where we are learning. His Grace Visheshika Prabhu and all the senior Vaishnavas say that we should always be in that apprentice mode. That we should never think that now I know a lot, now I don't need to refer to seniors. Now I am a senior devotee. So Arjuna, being a pure soul, being a friend of the Lord, being non-envious, being such a transcendental personality, is asking these questions and teaching us that we should always have this mood. Tadvidhi pranipatina pariprashnina sevaya. Bhagavad-Gita does not say don't ask question. Bhagavad-Gita does not encourage blind following. So we should ask question. We should always be in the mood of eagerness. Like a child. The child asks a lot of questions, right? Children ask a lot of questions. Why do we do this? Why we don't do this like this? Right? It is good way, in a good way, not in a challenging way. Let me test if Krishna knows this or not. In a humble mood with submissive inquiry to serve, Arjuna is asking. Because if the questions remain in the mind, their doubts are like demons. They will limit the progress. So both the extremes are bad, right? One extreme is, I don't need to ask anything. I know everything. The other thing is asking, it's in the heart, but not asking, thinking, oh, I will disturb them. What will they say? What will he say? What will she say? The other extreme could be asking, but in the mood to challenge. I already know the answer, but let me just ask to see if he or she knows or not. There could be multiple phases of this, but the right way is, yes, we should ask. Even Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, who were experts in the science of bhakti, were very, very stalwart devotees. But when they approached Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they prostrated themselves at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and asked, people call me a Pandit, and look at my foolishness, I consider myself like that. Out of great humility, they're saying this. Now you please teach me, who am I? What is the goal of life? These are the basic questions which the great Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asked by Srila Rupa Sanatana Goswami. So we can understand how with humility we should ask questions. The word Prayana Kale is used. Prayana Kale means at the time of death. And this is the whole chapter. These 8 questions are there. And out of those 8 questions, the main question is about the time of death. How can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? At the time of death means Prayana Kali. Shri King Kulashekar Alwar says in a very nice verse, which if you want to learn, you can certainly learn. One of my favorite verses. Prabhupada quotes it hundreds and hundreds of times in his talks, purports, and Bhagavatam Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna tvadiya pada pankaja panjarantam adyaiva me vishatu manasa rajahamsa prana prayana samaye kafvata pittai kantavarodhana vidhau smaranan kutasthe. O Krishna, let my heart be absorbed in the pinjara, in the let you be me in my consciousness. Let you always be in my consciousness. Because he knows what you're going to talk about. That whatever the state of consciousness one has, one will attain that. Now one may say like, okay, why are you asking now? Because he says in the next line, prana prayana samayi. At the time of prayana kala, Kaf vata pittai, kantha varodhan, the voice will be choked with kaf vata pitta. At that time, only khur will come. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare will not be able to come from my kantha. So, O my Supreme Lord, you be in my consciousness now. And always, I will capture you. This is Damodar Leela, capturing Krishna in the ropes of love, inviting Krishna. This is Rath Yatra also, pulling Krishna in our heart. All our festivals have the same meaning. Dashera, Ram Navami. This is Lord Ram's coming. Now, where is Lord Ram coming? Coming in the chamber of Ayodhya, which is full of darkness. Let's lit lamp of bhakti, so we can welcome the Lord in our hearts. So Prayana Kali is very, very important here. And this is the 8th question of Arjuna. So now we'll see some quick responses. But before that, let's read a little more purport from chapter 2nd verse. If someone wants to read, we read that, the meaning of Madhusudana. These doubts are like demons. Krishna is so expert in killing demons. Arjuna here addresses him as Madhusudana so that Krishna might kill the demoniac demons that arise. So when demons or doubts come, we should approach Vaishnavas, Shastras. Otherwise, those doubts will haunt us and they may probably weaken our Krishna consciousness. So we should not let doubts linger in our mind or heart. Even if sometimes it could be, sometimes people say, oh, in ISKCON, they do this, don't tell anyone, I'm telling you. Sometimes some Vaishnavas or envious people may sow the seeds of doubts, right? So we should always clarify those. Or even if some point is not clear, I'm not able to understand what Krishna is trying to convey, what Prabhupada is trying to convey. We should always sincerely ask, because the seeds of doubt will sprout and become demons if not properly killed by the lamp of knowledge through Guru Sadhu Shastra. So we must ask right questions, like how Arjuna is teaching us. And this is a way to ask questions. This is a summary of those 8 questions. What is Brahma? What is Adhyatma? What is Karma? What is Adi Bhuta? What is Adi Daiva? What is Adi Yagya? What is Adi Yagya or Adi? And how is Adi Yagya, the Supreme Lord, known in the body? And the last one, how to know him, you, Krishna, at the point of death, or Prayanakali. Okay, it's kind of a quick summary. So now we'll go to verse 3 and 4 and try to understand. In 3 and 4, Krishna answers the first 7 questions. So let's read those. Yes, people, probably want to read, please.
Shri Guruji, Harijan devotees, Dandavat Pranam, all goes to Srila Prabhupada. Text 3. Aksharam Brahma Paramam Shabhavo Adhattam Uchyate Bhutabhavo Udbhava Karo Visarga Karma Sangita. Translation by His Divine Grace is Swami Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Joy. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called Adhatma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma, or fruitive activities. Back to Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. We'll read the 4th verse also, and then we will discuss these 2 verses together. Yes, Sampada, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Text 4. Adhibhutam sharopavaha purusaschadi daivatam adhiyagyo aham evacha dehe deha pritambara. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O best of the embodied beings, the physical nature which is constantly changing is called Adi Bhuta, the material manifestation. The universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods, like those of the sun and moon, is called Adi Daiva. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented as a super soul in the heart of every embodied being, am called Adi Yagya, the Lord of sacrifice. Hare Krishna, Babaji, back to you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So these 7 questions are explained in a quick way in these 2 verses. So what is Brahma? So Brahma here refers to the Jiva, or the spirit soul. That is the self. We are not the body, but we are the spirit soul. In different contexts, Brahma is referred differently. Sometimes we see Brahman is referred to Lord Brahma. Sometimes referred to as something spiritual, like Brahma Arpanam, offering spiritual paraphernalia. Sometimes it's referred to spirit soul, as in this verse. And sometimes it's also referred to the Parabrahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in here, it is the Aksharam, indestructible, the infinitesimal, not the infinite Paramatma, the infinitesimal living entity, which is separate from the material body. That's the Brahma here. Adhyatma, the Swabhav. Jivara Swarupa Krishna Nitya Das. This is the eternal nature of, or the impression. The eternal nature is to be Krishna's servant, but because of different karma, because of different modes, we take different bodies because of our activities. Jumping to question 3 also. So let's understand the 2, 3, 4 kind of together. So Adi Bhuta is the Prakriti, or the material nature consisting of material elements. So because of the kind of activities we do, we take different bodies, right? From one body to the other, we keep moving. Punarapi charanam, punarapi maranam, punarapi jatare jatare shayanam. Different bodies of different mothers, as cow, as dog, as donkey, as ant and squirrel, whatnot. Why? Because of the different modes or the material nature. We do different activities. Everything is divided into different modes: goodness, passion, ignorance, which with the different colors we discussed last time in 7.12. But Krishna is above those. So the eternal Swabhava, it's never lost, but it is covered. We discussed the example of the iron covered with the rust. The iron has the dormant magnetism, but when it is covered with the temporary nature of rust, the dormant magnetism is not lost, it's covered. But when we follow the process of bhakti or Krishna consciousness, then we can shave off or file the lust of rust, and the love of God will rekindle. So these are the three: Swabhava, Karma, the fruitive activities, and Adi Bhuta, reflecting Prakriti. Then discussion about Adi Deva. Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and in his material manifestation, he also expands as Virata Purusha, which includes all the demigods as well. That is the Adi Deva. Adi Yagya is Paramatma. So Vasudeva Paramakha, Vasudeva Parakriya, Vasudeva Parayoga. So there's a nice verse in the Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, I believe. Vasudeva Paramakha, he is the real beneficiary of all the yagyas. Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. I am the enjoyer of all the sacrifices. The universal peace formula, I think in 529. Which verse is it? All the Bhagavad-Gita scholars are here. Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam. 529. Okay, I will give
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, wonderful. That Krishna is the real beneficiary or the enjoyer. Then where is Adi Yagya situated? Who can prove with a verse or two? Where is Paramatma situated in our hearts? Or who can prove with a verse? Okay, I already gave the answer. 1515, 1861. Two verses.
Ishvara sarva bhutanam hrideshe Arjun tishtati.
Wonderful. Hridadeshe, in the region of the heart. And what is 1515? Lavani? Sarvasya?
Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto madasmita jnanam apohanam cha vedescha sarver ahameva vedyo vedanta krid veda vid eva chaham.
Wonderful. Thank you. You have to keep practicing, okay, for those who have learned the 50 verses, otherwise we may forget. So in those two verses, and of course here also, it's very clearly mentioned that Krishna is present in the heart. As we see here, also text number 4. The super soul in the heart of every living entity. So these were the 7 questions asked, okay? And question number 8, how can one know Krishna, or me, or you here, Arjuna is asking, how can we know you at the time of death? This is the main subject of question number 8, so which we will discuss in great detail. The first 4 verses, the acronym is dead, and the first 4 verses clarified Arjuna's doubt of the D is doubt, okay, D-E-A-D. So now we'll come to E, and the E is end of life, right? How many of you have seen movies in your life? Or movie? Anyone has seen? All of you have seen, right? Maybe 10 years back, maybe 20 years back, maybe whatever time. I'm not asking that, right? Let's say you go for a movie, okay? and your friend has already watched it. And it's especially like a suspense movie. And your friend tells, and you know what will happen to the hero or the villain? At the end of the movie, this will happen. Will you like it to know? You won't like it, right? You won't like it. Everyone won't like it, correct? This is the real situation in this world. What is the climax of life? Death. Life is a preparation. Death is the real exam. The whole life is a preparation for that death. But if you talk, let's say if we talk, hey, we all know this, that no one is going to live forever, isn't it? Srila Yudhishthir Maharaj was asked by Yaksha this famous question, that what is the most astonishing thing in life? And he replied with this verse from Vanaparva in the Mahabharata. Anyone wants to read the reply in the translation? Those who haven't read, please raise your hand so your chance will come. It's not just for the Bhagavad-Gita verses, whatever reading we are doing. Lakshay?
Yes, Saji. Ahanyahani bhutani gachantiha yamal ayam sheshash tavaram ichanti kim ascharyam artaparam. Hundreds and thousands of living entities meet death at every moment. But a foolish living being nonetheless thinks himself deathless and does not prepare for death. This is the most powerful, wonderful thing in the world. Everyone has to die because everyone is fully under the control of material nature, yet everyone thinks that he is independent. That whatever he likes, he can do and he will never meet death, but live forever. And so on. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Isn't this verse very powerful? Every day, thousands of living entities, thousands of what to forget about the other living entities. Of course, due respect to them. Humans, thousands and maybe tens of thousands of. And they're not just, okay, one may say, well, I don't care. Well, how many of you have in your family or your acquaintance, your relatives, you've seen some form of death, right? It could be your grandfather, it could be someone, right? We all have seen, right? I mean, there's no one can say that, seen in the sense or know or aware of. We may not be present at that moment. That's a different thing. But at least we are aware that that person who was there in the past is now gone. Correct? And how many of us at least know someone that they didn't die at 80 years, 90 years? They were maybe 10 years. They were 5 years, 20 years, 30 years, right? We all know what I've heard, maybe in the news, maybe some distant acquaintance or somewhere, right? We all have read, heard, or know those. So what does it tell? A very, very important verse, that it's not that, I will live here forever. Very, very simple, conclusion of Bhagavad-Gita, that one who is born will die. But the soul will keep moving. So the intelligent person, a foolish will not like to know, right? As mentioned here, a foolish living entity nonetheless thinks I will be deathless and I won't prepare for death. They don't talk about death. Why are you talking about the climax of the movie? Let's just enjoy life, right? Let's just enjoy the movie. Forget about the climax. Forget about what's going to happen 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40. Well, first of all, we don't know. Point number one, that is it going to happen 20 years from now or 40 years from now or 50 years from now or 2 seconds from now? Nothing is certain in this world, right? Well, our movement is not death to be death conscious. Our movement is to be to understand the teachings of Bhagavad-Gita and to prepare for it. That if it comes 2 seconds from now, or 2 years from now, or 20 years, or 50 years, I am ready. This is our consciousness. This is our Krishna consciousness movement. Not to be death conscious, but Krishna conscious. So no matter whatever time it comes, I will face it boldly. This is an ostrich. Some of you may have seen an ostrich. An ostrich, when the tiger of death is coming to devour her, she puts her head in the sand and saying, hey, nothing, everything is good. I don't see the tiger. Everything is rosy, cozy. Enjoy life. But it's just a matter of few more seconds. Whether one lives 20 years or 80 years, that's not a big deal. Because from the eternal journey of life, 20 years, 40 years, 80 years, it's pretty much the same, right? If it's like an infinite line in 1 dot or 2 dot, does it really make a difference? Not really. So the Bhagavatam says, it does not matter how many years one lives. Correct? It matters whether one lives a few moments or even 1 moment of Krishna consciousness. So materialistic people try to just say, forget about death, don't talk about death, don't bring this topic. Life, just enjoy life. But spiritualists, they say, this is something going to come to me as well. When we are going from one city to the other, don't we all prepare? Don't we all prepare our bags? Where will I eat? Where will I stay? How will I travel? We all prepare. Even for going for like a 2 or 3 days of vacation. We don't just do things randomly. We prepare ourselves, what things we need to take, right? Where will I live? What will I eat? Whom will I meet? Or where will I go? We all prepare. So something which is as certain as death, we should also prepare. And these is the verses which will help us to prepare for the real thing, which is the death. And this also comes in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Parikshit Maharaj is to Shukadeva Goswami in the Canto 1. O trustworthy Brahmanas, I now ask you about my immediate duty. Please, after proper deliberation, discussion, and analysis, tell me the unalloyed duty of everyone in all circumstances, and specifically of those who are just about to die. So the entire Srimad Bhagavatam is practically based on this question. And what is the real duty? And the answer is same, because the duty for someone at all times and duty for one who's about to die is same. Why? Because we don't know when the death will come. Everyone is old, right? If I ask, let's say, I don't want to put names here, but so-and-so Mataji, they'll say, okay, I'm 30 years old. Okay, so-and-so young kid, I'm 7 years old, right? If I ask Lakshya, they'll say maybe I'm 11 years old. If I ask someone, in the senior group, I'm 59 years old. Everyone is old. We don't say I'm 7 years young, I'm 20 years young, I'm 40 years young, although even the heart will think like that. But the life tells us. Parnamataji, you were saying something? You unmuted yourself. Krishna. So everyone is old. Although an 80-year-old may also have a 20-year, 80-year-old may have a 20-year plan. But when the time of death comes, then nothing. The best of the beautiful people cannot stop it. The wealth cannot stop it. Good health cannot stop it. There are sometimes, very, very people with good health, with nice body, going to gym and doing all sorts of exercise and running and whatnot. And next moment you get to know, died of a heart attack, 40 years, right? Have you all heard of it? Right? You may have heard. That yesterday he seemed to be just perfect. Have you all heard, at least? If you're not seen, at least we have heard in some of our friends, relatives, acquaintance. So many cases, still yesterday he was just fine. I met him, I had dinner with him, everything was just fine. And then tomorrow he's gone. Or she's gone. So very, very uncertain. So intelligent person prepares for it. We are not death conscious, but if by being Krishna conscious, we'll be able to overcome death. That's some whole topic of bhakti. By giving material solutions to material problems, the real problem out of the birth, old age, disease, death is death is certain. So the real problem, these four main problems, and by adopting a spiritual solution, which Bhagavad-Gita is recommending, we will be able to free ourselves from the cycle of birth and death. And this is the real process to overcome death. So now let's see what is that process, what Bhagavad-Gita is recommending, by which we can overcome death. Okay, let's do text number 5. In text 4, I just want to emphasize on one line of the purport. Of course, every line is very, very important. But this analogy of two birds is shared here. So, the Supreme Personality of Godhead seated beside the individual soul, the Atma and the Paramatma. The Lord is the witness of individual soul's activities and is the source of soul's various types of consciousness. So Krishna is watching each and every activity one may perform. He will not interfere until we surrender to him. Until Arjuna surrendered in Bhagavad-Gita 2.7, Krishna didn't say a word. Okay, you say go left, I'll go left. I'm your driver. You say go right, I'll go right. You say take me in the middle of the armies. Okay, I've brought you in the middle of the armies. Now see. The super soul gives the individual an opportunity to act freely and witness his activities. So I think last time Radhana Mataji asked this question, right? And we discussed that the Lord gives the freedom. The Lord is not restricting us. Even after speaking the entire Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Krishna said, Yathach tatha kuru, do as you feel like. I'm not going to restrict you. But based on the activities you choose, you are paving your future. I won't restrict you, but you don't have the right to choose the reactions. You have the right to choose the actions. Reactions, I will decide through my energies. Okay, text 5. Yes, Aparna Mataji, please, want to read? Avni?
Hare Krishna.
अंतकाले च ममावः स्मरन् मुक्ता कलेवरं या प्रयाति सा मदावा याति नस्त यंत्र संशय. Translation: and who perform at the end of his life, quit his body, remembering me only at once, attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Back to you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. This is a very, very important verse, which basically tells the answer to the 8th question: how can one attain you at the time of death? One who remembers you at the time of death at once attains your nature, basically. Or me here is Krishna is speaking this verse. One who remembers Krishna alone at the time of death, he will certainly go back home, back to Godhead. He'll be free from the cycle of birth and death. Of this, there is no doubt. Asamshayaha na asti atra samshaya. Of this, there is no doubt. So we should not have doubts in the words of the Supreme Lord. Let's read a few lines from the purport. So the point is remembering Krishna. Smarana, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Amongst the 9 limbs of Bhakti, Smaranam is one of them. So let's read from here. Anyone wants to read? We'll read the entire purport from here. Vinita?
Hare Krishna. The word smaran, remembering, is important. Remembrance of Krishna is not possible for the impure soul who has not practiced Krishna consciousness in devotional service. Therefore, one should practice Krishna consciousness from the very beginning of life. If one wants to achieve success at the end of his life, the process of remembering Krishna is essential. Therefore, one should constantly, incessantly chant the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Lord Chaitanya has advised that one be as tolerant as a tree. Taporapi his nuna. There may be so many impediments for a person who's chanting Hare Krishna. Nonetheless, tolerating all these impediments, one should continue to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, so that at the end of one's life, one can have the full benefit of Krishna consciousness.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. So many very, very deep lessons are there in this small purport. If one thinks, oh, okay, Krishna is saying, at the end of one's life, if one remembers me, he will come to me. Very simple, right? It may sound very simple. But what will one remember at the time of death? What will one remember? Anyone? Yes, Sampath.
Their property or their money, their business, their child, their family.
Okay, good, very nice. Anyone else wants to say? What will one remember at the time of death? Nirbhay Prabhu, want to share?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So whatever we have been thinking throughout our life, whatever has been our attachments throughout our life, that is what we will remember, because that comes naturally. When we are in trouble, we'll be remembering the things we are most attached to throughout this life.
Very nice, thank you. Can anyone give any proof from the scriptures? Anyone? Yes, Vedi?
The king who I think was like a big devotee, I can't remember his name, but he had like adopted a baby deer, and when he was like dying, that's what he remembered. He turned
Very
into a
good.
deer.
Yes, his name was Bharat Maharaj. And then he became a deer because the deer was very dear to him. So whatever is very dear to us, as Sampada Mataji said, if property is very dear to us, then the Kailash story, we had a drama on this, Kailash. Kailash, for him, property, his family was very dear. So he became a dog in the property, then later a snake in the property, and then, was continued his birth with tied to the property. The other example is Ajamil. His youngest child, Narayan, was very dear to him. He didn't call the Supreme Lord Narayan, but his child, he was calling as a child, Narayan, Narayan. But Krishna is very merciful that he thought he's calling him. So there are so many examples. One other story I'll share. One time there was a businessman. He had a business of cloth. And he was so attached to his business that, even at the age of like 80 years, he was so attached. And at 80 years, the body does not function so well. There are a lot of challenges. Just to move the body is very difficult. Go from one place to the other. But he was attached to the shop. He was attached to his shop, his cloth shop. And his kids thought to do something, Baba is getting old now. He is 80 years now. Still, he has so much attachment to the shop. What should we do? They called different pandits, different guru, different Bhagavad-Gita scriptures. But he was like hell-bent. Because old habits die hard. Therefore, what is Prabhupada saying here? Therefore, one should practice Krishna consciousness from the very beginning of life. Right? From the very beginning of life, one should practice Kumar Acharit Pragya. From Kumar Avastha. For preparing for IIT or MBBS, people start nowadays from 5th grade only, right? Which is an exam for getting into a good college. People prepare so much from. One was joking that later they'll start preparing from mother's womb to go into IIT. I'm not surprised with that, but this is just a temporary thing which people prepare so much. I'm not saying any commenting on that, but the point is something which is as important as that, how much we should prepare. Some people say bhakti should be done at the very last end of the life, right? Someone was, was practicing Krishna consciousness. Among Lila Prabhu shares the story. Among Lila Prabhu he was doing maybe japa in a park, and he met an uncle. He must be in his 20s or early 30s. He met an uncle who was in 70s in the park. He said, uncle said, hey, you are young boy. What are you doing this mala, Hare Krishna? Enjoy life. When you come to my age, then you do Hare Krishna. He said, uncle, he said, okay, uncle, very good idea. You take the mala. I'm going to watch movie. You come to the temple. You read Bhagavatam. You read Bhagavad-Gita. Will you do it? Uncle said, no, beta, you keep doing. You are doing nice thing. Because old habits die hard. In the old age, the senses are, one has already been doing. If someone has been smoking, drinking, eating meat throughout one's life, do you think it will be very easy for him or her to give up? Very difficult. When the clay pot has not been baked, it can be given any shape by the potter. So childhood or the youth is the time to shape our consciousness in a good way, so that rather than polluting it with lust, anger, greed, TV, internet, all the wrong things in there, why don't we saturate our consciousness with Bhagavad-Gita, chanting, reading? Prabhupada is repeating the Hare Krishna Mahamantra twice completely, not just saying Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. If one wants to achieve success, repeating from the purport, the process of remembering is essential. Life is practice. If you practice it throughout the time, then only will remember. Back to the cloth merchant story. So his friends, his neighbors, his children did multiple endeavors so that this person can understand, Baba, now you are 80 years old. Now forget about the cloth. Now forget about the profits and the gains and the business and the revenue. Now you focus on Hare Krishna. He said, no, Hare Baba, shop, everyone, who will take care of the shop? All of you are here. Then finally they said, let's take him to Gaya, to Varanasi, where the dead bodies are burned. Maybe when he see the dead bodies burning, then he will understand that I am also, a temporary in this body. My body is temporary. I will also be burned very soon like this. And when he went to Gaya, the Varanasi Ghat, the Triveni Sangam, saw the bodies burning, and he started crying. He started really crying. And everyone thought, okay, this is working. That's what we really wanted him to understand, the goal of life. The body is temporary. You will die one day. And then the few pandits and the family members asked, Baba, why are you crying? He said, oh, Baba, oh my God, I did such a big mistake. Looks like he understood the message of life. He said, oh my God, I am a fool number one. The whole life, I thought selling cloth is the biggest business opportunity to get good profit, good revenue. But the real opportunity is here in the wood business. So much wood. The people are coming every second someone is dying, and the people are coming and dying. If I would have done wood business, I would have been a millionaire by now. And then guess what? He died. thinking of wealth, thinking of more profits, thinking of wood, maybe became a wood creeper, right? So this is life. In old age, it's very hard to bend. Therefore, it's Prabhupada is recommending, Prahlad Maharaj is recommending, all the great souls recommend. And therefore, we should train our kids very nicely. So many wonderful kids are present. And kids will be trained if parents are trained. Very simple. Sometimes parents expect my child should be like Prahlad, and I'll be like Hiranyakashipu. It doesn't work like that. So the parents are nice Krishna conscious devotees. Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad is maybe one rare example, but mostly it doesn't work like that. Mostly, if the parents are good, Krishna conscious, the child, the daughter, the son, they'll be good in their bhakti. If the parents have other priorities, the parents will, I watch TV, you go to Bhagavad-Gita class, you read Bhagavad-Gita, I'll watch TV. It doesn't work like that. So it is a together we have to grow in bhakti. So very, very important point. So practice, that's the main point. From an early age, that's another very important point. And guess what? Will ups and downs come? Prabhupada is saying, yes. Impediments will come? Yes, the impediments will come for sure. So nonetheless, tolerating all the impediments, ups and downs will come in the life of devotee. But we have to keep chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada is repeating twice the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in this, so we can imagine the importance. One has to be, Lord Chaitanya is advising Trinadapi Sunichina, be tolerant, Tam Stitikshva Swabharata, Titikshva Karunika. So many verses talk about the same point, that one must tolerate the ups and downs. We discuss about tolerating the dualities, Nirdvandamo. Ups and downs will come. Wealth and disease, health and disease will come. Wealth and poverty will come. But nonetheless, one has to tolerate. His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj was giving a very nice example of a devotee who passed away in the time he was giving the class. So I don't know the year, but the lesson is very important. Hare Krishna Kushis. It was good to see you after a long time.
Thank you, Ramji.
Thank you for joining.
I just saw the live stream, so I just joined.
We are so grateful to you to see you live. So, yeah, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj was telling a story. This young lady, maybe in her early 30s or late 20s, she developed some form of disease. And it was like a terminal disease. She knew she had very less time, but she was born to devotee parents. From the very early childhood, she was so attached to Krishna. She was so attached to Krishna and the chanting of the holy name. In all her room, she would have notes, like sticky notes. We have kind of this to remind ourselves of important things. She would have always remember Krishna. Never forget Krishna. Don't fall in the trap of Maya. Don't forget to read Bhagavad-Gita today. Don't miss on your japa. Never eat outside other than Krishna Prasad. So she would always surcharge her consciousness, practicing throughout her life. And then, in 30 years, when she was in the hospital, Maharaj was also there for some time. Her parents were telling Maharaj that she was in a state, like in a coma or in a surgery. I don't know the exact medical terms and the situation, but she was unconscious. And for a moment, she gained consciousness. And she asked her mother, who was besides her, Mama, can I get my bead bag? Can I get my bead bag? So she got her bead bag, pressed it very close. The bead bag also contained a gift from her Guru Maharaj, Nath Maharaj, and her japa beads, which were also given by the Maharaj. She pressed it very close to her heart, and then she gave up her body. Now, it's so deep to remember that in that moment, one could have thought of million things in life. What will one think of? Whatever one has been practicing throughout one's life. but she thought of Krishna, she thought of her japa, she thought of the holy name, which is not different from Krishna. And that person, as Krishna says here, one who quits his body remembering me alone at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. This is Bhagavad-Gita. This is Krishna consciousness. Remembering Krishna throughout, whether one lives for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, 70, 80, that's not important. That is not in our control. Can anyone say for certain how many years one is going to live? No one can say that. What is in our control is how we live whatever time we are living. And Sri Kuresh, one of the disciples of Sri Ramaracharya, used to talk to Varadraj, the Supreme Lord. Like, what if someone is not able to remember God at the time of death? He may or she may have done a lot of bhakti throughout their life. But what if they're in a coma? What if they're in surgery? What if they die, kind of they're not even able to chant Hare Krishna? What if they're not surrounded by devotees chanting Hare Krishna? Then the Supreme Lord in Vara Puran says, Yadi kafvat dosha, yadi kaf adi dosha, madbhakta na cha mam smaret, aham smarami madbhakta nayami paramam gatim. Yadi kafvat adi doshena madbhakta na mam smaret, aham smarami madbhakta nayami paramam gatim. Due to some ailment, due to some disease, due to some, let's say, coma, cancer, whatever disease, devotees also go through all these. If my devotee who has practiced throughout life, but at the end is in a condition that they cannot remember, Krishna says, Aham smarami mad bhakta. I will remember my devotee, Nayami paramam gati, and take him or her to the topmost destination, back home, back to God. Of this there is no doubt. On the contrary, one throughout the life has not practiced bhakti, and one thinks, I will die in Vrindavan. Vrindavan is a very holy place. I know, I've heard from senior devotees, artificially arranging like that will also not work. Guess what? One was taken to Vrindavan thinking that he is all terminally ill. He spent 10 days in Vrindavan. Of course, will get some spiritual benefit. But the consciousness, even in Vrindavan, could be thinking of some samosa in Delhi, or property in Delhi, or some fight in Delhi, or some relative, or somewhere else in the world. I'm just giving Delhi as because Delhi is close to Vrindavan. So many people think that I will take my uncle and let him give up his life in Vrindavan. So 10 days pass. He was supposed to live only 10 hours, but 10 days passed, he didn't die. And on the way coming back, on the highway, he died. So it does not work like that. But if one leaves one body anywhere, if one has practiced Krishna consciousness, one will go back home, back to God. This is Krishna's promise. So important, practice, start early. Practice, practice, practice. Tolerate, tolerate, tolerate. Humility, 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 and chant Hare Krishna. These are the main lessons from this verse. Any thoughts, comments, additions, corrections? Okay, let's see. Maybe the next verse, which is quite similar. So, Avani, want to read?
Hey Krishna, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam yajite antakalevaram tam tam evati konteya satat tad bhava bhavita. Translation: whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. Hare Krishna, back to you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So these are similar verses. We covered multiple examples of the businessman, of Ajamil, of Bharat Maharaj, and multiple others of that wonderful devotee who thought of Krishna in the bead bag. So this is more generic. The first one was more specific. If one remembers Krishna, one will get that. If one remembers deer, one will get. If one remembers like Kailash property, one will become a dog in the property. And when a snake in the property, then the grandkids kill that snake. So Very, very important point. The process of changing one's nature at critical moment of death is explained here. So, and we also discussed that artificially one cannot remember anything, right? So Prabhupada is also giving the example of the deer. Of course, one's thoughts during the course of one's life accumulate to influence one's thought at the moment of death. So this creates one's next life. This is the principle of transmigration. One's thought throughout the course of life we are developing, impressions. These are called samskaras, impressions. We are chanting Hare Krishna, we are developing some impression. We are going to the temple, we are developing some impression. We are reading Bhagavad-Gita, we are developing some impression. We are being with the devotees, we are developing some impression. We are eating Krishna Prasad, we are developing impressions around our consciousness. Good impressions, Krishna conscious impressions. We are going to Rath Yatra. It is said at the time of death, the entire tape of life or reel of life is shown. So the more impressions in that reel we can have Krishna conscious, the more likelihood will be that we will remember Krishna, isn't it? Now, on the contrary, if one is going to, let's say, TV impressions, heroine impressions, football impressions, this impressions and dance impression, casino impressions, alcohol impressions, meat eating impressions, all the bad impressions, talking nonsense impressions, criticizing impressions, fault finding impressions, then the reel is getting loaded with more and more of bad impressions, right? And guess what? The likelihood of remembering those will increase. Pretty straightforward. Do you all agree with that? She agrees. Good. So this is very simple, straightforward formula of transmigration into the next body. The more we remember throughout the life, Krishna, and Prabhupada is, so we can imagine the importance of these verses. Prabhupada is again quoting the full Hare Krishna Mahamantra. These are very important verses in chapter 8, 8.5, 6, and 7. If one is transcendentally absorbed in Krishna's service, then his next body will be transcendental or spiritual, not material. Therefore, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare is the best process for successfully changing one's state of being at the end of one's life. So everyone should chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day without fail. This is building that impression. I know some of you chant 2 rounds, 4 rounds, some 16 rounds, which is very good. But why is Prabhupada repeating it like 3 times in the same page practically? Because there is no other way in the age of Kali-Yuga. Kalidoshi nidhi rajanasti veka mahan guna kirtanadi Krishna se mukta sangha paramcha. Nam namakari bahuta nij sarva shakti satra pitaniyamita smaraniyata. These are the recommended by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all our great acharyas. Kalidoshi nidhi rajanasti veka mahan guna. What's that verse? No other way. Remember? Remember Prabhu? Remember? Naiva. I'm forgetting that. Okay. I think we paraphrase the essence that there is no other way in this age of Kali than through the chanting of the holy names. The best process for Padasya. So now, text 7. Anyone? Karina, you want to read? Or Kushi, you want to read? Maybe you both read, you share. One can read the verse, one can read the translation. Kushi, you want to start with the verse? And Karina will read the translation.
Okay, Prabhuji. तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु मामनुस्मरयुध्य च मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिर्मामे वैश्यसि असंशय.
Wonderful.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This instruction, therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt.
Wonderful. It's a very important verse after the text 5 and 6. Tasmat, therefore. So to remember at the time of death, Krishna, we must therefore think of him at all times. Sarva kala. Sarva means all, kala means time. Tasmat, therefore, at all times, what do? Anusmara, remember me. Yuddha, fight. So we can remember Krishna at all times. While eating, we can remember Krishna. While dancing, we can remember Krishna. While driving, we can remember Krishna. While doing household chores, we can remember Krishna. By brushing our teeth, we can remember Krishna. Through kirtan, through practically even devotees put some bhajan even while sleeping, right? Because our ears are active, right? Even while sleeping. Mata Yashoda was also doing that. Dadi nirmanthane kale smaranti tani agayata. She was doing churning of butter. We all know this story in the Damodar Leela. She was churning butter, and what was she doing? She was singing the poeticized songs about Krishna's pastime, and she was remembering Krishna's pastimes. So her duty was not to fight like Arjuna. Her duty was to make butter for Krishna. So whatever our duties are, we can remember those. We go to hospital, we go to school, we go to college, we go to our workplace, we go to our home, we are in any part, all times basically. All times means 24/7. Now one may say, well, 24/7 is very difficult, then at least we try to remember at certain dedicated time. So we all should have a fixed time or fixed number of rounds, we show our quota. So at least this much I will, for sure not miss. Rest is bonus. Because sometimes, people say, we remember Krishna all the time. After sleeping and before waking up, we remember him. Is it, I remember Krishna all the time. That's not like that. And how many rounds when you come to temple, you remember Krishna all the time? No. I just do from my home. I just in the morning say Om Jai Jagadish. That's my remembrance, all done. Whole day I will watch movies, cricket, this, that, and I've remembered Krishna. It's not that easy to remember Krishna all the time, isn't it? What to speak of when we are actively trying to remember, it's hard. For example, when we're chanting, the mind goes in different ways. But we are practicing to chant. We're not even actually chanting, we're practicing to chant Hare Krishna. So that one day we can purely chant Hare Krishna without distractions, the pure names of God. So we should have a fixed schedule that I will chant Hare Krishna, I'll read this Bhagavad-Gita or Bhagavatam, or I'll do Arti every day, or I will read one verse every day. Some fixed regime should be there. Because Prabhupada also mentions practice does not mean when I feel like. If someone has to win an Olympic medal or someone has to become a doctor or engineer, it's not that, okay, I will practice when if I feel like. They have a very strict schedule, isn't it? Even in schools, college, some of you may be in some sports team. There's a fixed schedule to practice. If you don't show up, then you're not going to excel in that sport or excel in that academics or anything for that matter. I remember I used to play a lot in my early childhood. So my teacher, they say at 4:30 you have to be in the court to practice, and I would be there. 4:30 a.m. I wish I would have been chanting Hare Krishna at that time, but I didn't know, and whatever, like God's arrangement. So I would drive my bicycle, get up at 4, pick one other person, and go to that sports center to start practicing. That was the regime. Practicing for the tournament, to win the tournament, right? Or for that. So basically, we will win the tournament of life when we practice sincerely every day, or the game of life. This is the art of living and the art of leaving. When we live in a Krishna conscious way, we'll certainly leave the body and go back home, back to Godhead. So of this, there is no doubt. So our yuddha is our different duties, conditional duties we all have. It could be studies for some, it could be job, it could be household chores, it could be, but while doing those and having a fixed schedule, we should remember, Mai arpita mano buddhir, your mind, your buddhi, offer it to me. In that way, again, this word is coming, asamshaya. Text 5 also had it. Text 7 also, asamshaya. Without doubt, you will come to me. Very, very important point here. The Lord does not say that one should give up prescribed duty. Some people say, well, should I give up my job to chant Hare Krishna? Should I give up my wife, my children, my husband, my home, my car? No, one can have all this. One can continue them, right? Whatever state one is, one does not need to change the paristhiti. One has to change the manosthiti, the state of mind, the state of heart. One has to change by changing the externals. As I said, one can go to Vrindavan and still be thinking of materialistic things. But on the contrary, one could be in Tampa, in Jackson, in New York, in Rochester, in New Delhi, and still be Krishna conscious in the association of devotees, practicing every day to be Krishna conscious. So this clarifies doubt which many people have, that we don't need to change our externals. We have to work on the internals, the state of mind and consciousness. That's the formula to free ourselves. And this is the E. We are discussing the D of doubt till text 4. The 5 to 8 is E, end of life. One last verse we'll quickly do. Who has not yet read, wants to read? Or let's see if anyone, I don't want to rush through. If anyone has questions or comments or additions, we can take that. We can always cover text 8 later as well. Or if anyone has anything which struck you and you want to share. Anyone? Did someone unmute to speak, or I'm not sure? Okay, then let's cover one last verse for today, and then we will pause. Text 8. Let's read. Yes, Natasha Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam all devotees. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanyagamina parmam purusham divyam yati parthanuchintayan. Hare Krishna. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. So 5 to 8 verse talk about the end of life, and basically the conclusion is to remember Krishna in an undeviated way. Chetasa na anya gamini. That means anya means other things. If we are thinking of 100 other things, then our mind will not be focused, right? Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurman bahushaka inantascha buddhayo avyavasayina. We have to remember, like this is my thing. If the mind goes in the practice, you have to bring it back, right? You have to bring it back. Multiple times we have discussed this point. During the practice, there will be sometimes I don't feel like doing. Whether we feel like or don't feel like, you have to think of the higher goal through our intelligence and continue practice. In the practice, sometimes the mind will give various excuses also. The mind will try to trick us. Let's not practice today. Let's take it easy. Then we will miss on our goal. So the importance of remembering every day, like a military regime. Prabhupada always say, practice means military regime, like a discipline. Disciple means to live under discipline. It's not that one day, in military or any profession or any expertise, you won't want to go to a person who has been trained for one day and then he missed 100 days and then again one day and then he missed. Would you like to go to such doctor who is callous and didn't pay the hard work to be there? No, firstly, one cannot get there. Even if one gets there, one will not know what to do. So practice. By this practicing of chanting, practice of chanting, the hearing, sound, vibration, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we have to engage our ear, tongue, mind, and all are engaged. So this is very important, how to chant properly. Prabhupada is sharing. Our tongue has to vibrate the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Ear has to hear that, and the mind has to be absorbed. So basically, conscious chanting. These days, everyone talks about being mindful, being conscious, putting our chetana there, chetasa. Basically, chetasa na annegana. While eating, we are eating. Well, this is a secret for good relationships, to be mindful of what we are doing. Relationship with Krishna, relationship with the holy name, to putting our mind and heart there, not just chanting for the sake of chanting, not just chanting and thinking of when will this end, not just chanting and watching TV. That will have very minimal effect. So practice, again, importance of practice is shared here. It's very easy to practice. This is the mystic meditation process. Easy to practice. Easy for easy, difficult for difficult. So if one continues to do so, remembering the names of Lord through chanting, through reading, hearing, Bhagavatam, bhajans, etc., this is the process for Kali Yoga. If we constantly think of Krishna, it is certain at the end of our lives, we shall have the same bodily constitution as Krishna. That means we will attain a spiritual body. It's not that one will become God, one will get a transcendental spiritual body. One does not have to take birth. Yad gatvanani vartante tad dham paramam. One will not take birth again in the material cycle of repeated birth. This is till text 8. So we covered the D of doubts and E of end of life. What to do, how to do, why to do. We discuss all those points. And the essence is to practice, to tolerate the ups and downs, to practice mindfully, trying to bring back our mind, trying to be humble and honest and sincere. And then Krishna will certainly help. So thank you for giving this chance to study Bhagavad-Gita on this month of Kartik. So if anyone has any comments, additions, or questions, maybe we can take one or two before we wrap up. Hare Krishna. Anyone? Or any reflections? Reflection is something which really struck you, or kind of a take-home message in your own paraphrased language. Anyone has something to share?
In the last line of verse 8, it's written similarly, if we constantly think of Krishna, it is certain that at the end of our lives, we shall have the same bodily constitution as Krishna. Is it in reality?
Yes. The bodily constitution is basically Satchid Ananda. Our material body is made up of right now earth, water, fire, air, ether, which are temporary. From earth we came, and from earth these elements will go. But when one goes back home, like all the Vishnu Dutas or all the Vasis in the Goloka Vrindavan or in all the spiritual planets, they have the body which is made up of the spiritual elements, spiritual, Sach Chit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. So they will get the same bodily constitution. They will not become God. They will continue to remain the servants of God, but they will be eternal servants. And they will not have a material body. They will have a spiritual body. So yes, Sachidananda body. Namam Ishwaram Sachidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhajamanam. Sachidananda Rupam is Krishna's body. So yes, the spiritual Vasis, the residents of spiritual world, also have Sachidananda Rupam. But it is in the mood of the servant, not the enjoyer. Does that help?
Why the rich people cannot change their, I mean to say, you said one can change manusthiti and not paristhiti. In their lips, it is always Hey Ram, Hey Krishna. But why the middle class or the higher class cannot change this thing? Why it is not on their lips?
Well, it's not about just the position. Changing paristhiti means externals. Paristhiti means situations. So first of all, who is rich, who is poor is a very relative term. A millionaire thinks who I'm poor, and someone who has 10 million is rich, right? Someone who has 10 million thinks I'm poor, and who has 100 million is rich. So there's always, if one is not satisfied with what one has, one will continue to be poor in spite of having the whole world's wealth. So this is a very relative term. But even let's say from a kind of a general scale, we say, yes, Kunti Maharani also says, Janma Ishware Shruta Shribi, Edamana Madapuman, Neva Avahartya Vidhatum, Vai Tuam Akinchana Gocharam. So this wealth can be an obstacle. I know a lot of devotees who have a lot of good wealth and they have a lot of good Krishna consciousness. And I know a lot of people who have good wealth and they are not Krishna conscious. So it's not just, it can be an impediment. It certainly is an impediment, but it is not like, for example, like Ambrish Prabhu, the great grandson of Henry Ford. So he's a Prabhupada disciple. He's using the wealth for a good cause to build temple, like Temple of Vedic Planetarium, giving millions of dollars, thousands and hundreds and thousands of dollars. So the point is that yes, wealth can be an obstacle when the desire is to just me and my family, selfish. But when the same wealth is used for Krishna consciousness, at least a portion. Now, what portion? That is up to one individual and a lot of other factors based on their sincerity, based on their faith in Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. At least some portion, whether it is 1% or 0.1% or 10%, 20%, 50%, we're not going there. So if it is used, then it will be helpful. Otherwise, the same wealth will become a cause of bondage. Then we discuss the story of, it's a very nice drama also. This story of, who was that? The Brahmana whose wealth became a cause of difficulty. So generally, wealth makes us think, I can buy anything. I can buy any car. I can buy any home. I have a lot of wealth. I have a lot of good contacts. I'm the enjoyer. I have a lot of servants serving me. See, I'm better. I'm the master. So those propensities may come up. They certainly come if one is not using the wealth properly. And I can go anywhere. I can purchase any flight ticket and get anywhere. So then that's why it is said it can be an obstacle. So, but if one is careful, that this is not my wealth. This is Krishna's property. I'm a caretaker. I must use. If God gives us more, We should not increase the standard of living. We should increase the standard of giving. The great devotees mentioned that. Very important point. Because if we continue to increase the standard of living, then even someone earning $1 million can be a broke. And there are, in America, 80% of the people have huge debts. And they live just on, although they may be earning very handsome salary, but they're still in debts. Why? Because of lifestyle. Their lifestyle is so high that just for the basic needs they need a lot. Again, that's a very big topic, but the answer is, and it's small, that it can be an obstacle if one develops artificial controlling, enjoyer, proprietor mentality, forgetting Krishna. Krishna bholi sei jivanadir bahirmukh ate maya tare de samsara dukh. The root cause is forgetfulness of Krishna. Whether one is rich or poor, both can be miserable. Vishwanath Maharaj says, a poor person, a beggar can be proud of his blanket. My blanket has 2 holes. Your blanket has 4 holes. I am better than you. Torn blanket, living on the street, still can be proud. Does that help? Okay, I don't want to delay any further. We're already a little over time, so we'll pause here. Thank you so much for tolerating me and giving your wonderful association. I'm so grateful to all of you. Hare Krishna, Bhagavad-Gita, Upanishad ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya Vacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you. Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Haribol.